Nelson with Servants Hearts Ministries in beautiful Trenton, Georgia. In fact, it is a rainy and stormy, beautiful day here, but this is the day that the Lord has made. Thank you for joining me to yet another edition of Be My Witness video podcast, which is a podcast for us to learn a bit more about what it is to be a better witness for Christ. And I want to share with you a word out of Hebrews 12, verses 1 and 2. This is very powerful, yet we sort of quote this, and sometimes we quote it, but yet we really don't grasp it. And I want to talk to you about running the race. This race is this thing called life. And how do we run this thing? My Bible says, run your race with endurance. And so I want to just touch base a little bit on this about what the author of Hebrews, which, by the way, we don't know who the author is of the book of Hebrews, but it was written by a Hebrew for Hebrews so that they would not be Hebrews. In other words, so that they wouldn't be so much into religion. And so Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 and 2 says, "Therefore we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us." That's verse 1. Let me stop right there. He says, let us lay aside every weight. So imagine if you are a runner and you put on a backpack and you're putting on all these weights in your back. Do you think that you will run the race the best that you can? Absolutely not. Why? Because you have all this weight on your back. You have all this weight that you are not meant to carry. And so it says, let us lay aside every weight. So what is that weight? Well, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 31 tells us a little bit about what that weight is when it says to let us lay aside all anger, all malice, all bitterness, and it goes on to list several other things of what we are to do to lay aside. So those are the things that can weigh us down. Have you ever wondered why you're feeling all down, and sometimes you're just like, wow, I feel like I should be happier, but I'm not? Sometimes it's because there's something that is indwelling inside of us that we're carrying that we're not meant to carry. Sometimes you had a bad day, or somebody spoke badly of you, or something happens. Maybe even you're holding on to bitterness. There's a big weight right there. You're not meant to carry that. You want to run your race? Well, do like the Bible says and lay that weight aside. In other words, just put it off. Don't hold on to that bitter. Don't be angry at that person. Just lay that aside. And it goes on to say, verse 1, and lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us. So not only do we put on weight as we're running the race and we're sort of saying, why is life so slow, and why are we so sluggish, or why are things not going my way? Maybe it's because some of the weight that we're carrying, bitterness, anger, jealousy, whatever that is. But also the sin that so easily ensnares us. In other words, things that we don't even realize that we're falling into, a sin that we might be falling into, that it's so easy for us to get entangled in those things. And whatever that looks like, we need to lay that aside as well. Get rid of that as well. You know, it'd be hard enough to run with weight on your back. It's even harder if your feet are all tangled up, right? And so your weight is your things that you carry unnecessarily, and your sin is what's entangling you, stopping you from keep running this race with endurance. And so what's the answer to this? The author of the book of Hebrews gives us the answer. And here it is in verse 2. It says, and let us run, he says, and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. So every one of us has a race that is set before each one of us. I have a race, you have a race. That's called life. We have this life to live out, and we have to live it out to the best that we can. Put away the weight, put away the sin, and let's run with endurance. And how do we do it? Let's go to verse 2. It says, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. So there it is. How do you run this race? Well, here it is. Keep your eyes on Christ. Remember the story of Peter and the disciples as they were on the boat and it's storming, and here comes Jesus walking on water, and they thought he was a ghost, and then they realized that it is Jesus, and so Peter comes out and says, "Hey, Master, if it truly is you, bid me to come." In other words, bid me to come to you. And he had this faith to say, I want to keep my eyes on you, not on the storm. And so Peter starts to do something miraculous. He starts to walk on water. You know, in the storm, the problem was the water. But in the storm, the solution was keeping his eyes on Jesus. So you want to run this race, you want to live this life out to the fullest. Run your race with endurance by laying aside all the weight, all the bitterness, all the anger, all the backtalk, backbiting, malice, whatever that is. Lay that aside. If you're a Christ follower, that shouldn't be part of your agenda to begin with. And then lay aside the sin. We all fall into some sort of sin sometimes. Maybe we see something we're not supposed to see. Maybe we do something we're not supposed to do. We need to lay that aside because it's going to tangle us up in running this race. I sure hope that this message blessed you as it blessed me today. Join me next time on Be My Witness. God bless you, and I love you.